After days of cross-border missile and drone attacks, India and Pakistan have agreed to a ceasefire with immediate effect. The escalation was the worst in decades and was triggered by a militant attack on Indian-administered Kashmir last month that killed 26 people, most of them tourists. US President Donald Trump announced the truce, saying it followed mediation efforts from Washington. In a brief statement, India's Foreign Secretary gave more details when announcing the ceasefire.
The Director General of Military Operations of Pakistan called the Director General of Military Operations of India at 15:35 hours earlier this afternoon. It was agreed between them that both sides would stop all firing and military action on land and in the air and sea with effect from 1700 hours Indian Standard Time today. Instructions have been given on both sides to give effect to this understanding. The Directors General of Military Operations will talk again on the 12th of May at 1200 hours. Thank you.
Residents of the city of Kupwara in Indian-administered Kashmir welcomed the news of the truce.
We were facing a lot of troubles in the last 4 or 5 days due to the cross-border shelling. The whole village was tense and troubled. From children to the elderly, everyone stayed indoors during the day and moved to different villages at night because of the firing. We're very happy that there is a ceasefire.
We are happy to see this. This is a good thing. Nobody wants war. No solution can be found with war. It is only through dialogue. Talks and negotiations are the only way to find a solution.
Pakistanis are also expressing relief after hearing of the ceasefire. Here's more for them.
This is a good thing. We understand that war is never the solution to a problem. Eventually everything is decided at the negotiating table.
The announcement of a ceasefire is a moment of happiness. We are peaceful people. We do not want any chaos or war. I believe that such things should not happen in the future.
DW reporter Beenish Javed is here with me in the studio to discuss this further. Relief we're hearing from those people. What are you hearing?
Absolutely. There is a big sigh of relief, Tommy. There was heavy escalation between two countries, heavy cross-border shelling, firing. Imagine drones and missiles and strikes into each other's territory. So it's a big relief for millions of people in the region who were on edge and extremely worried. And I'll talk about the visuals that I've been seeing from Pakistan. There's a lot of celebration. People are cheering. They are distributing sweets. So there's a lot of happiness in the Indian-administered Kashmir and parts of India. We have seen that people have also shared their happiness that now there is finally a ceasefire in place. There were people, especially in the Indian-administered Kashmir and also in Pakistan-administered Kashmir, they were evacuated. People were killed because of cross-border shelling and firing. And there is at least this relief that now, for now, because of the ceasefire, that has stopped.
And what are the official views from both sides?
Pakistani Prime Minister Mr. Shehbaz Sharif has thanked US President Donald Trump. He's giving credit to him for this ceasefire. What we're hearing from the Indian officials is that they have not mentioned involvement of US or any other country. We've also heard from DW's Delhi Bureau Chief. Some sources have told her that it was the Pakistani side that contacted the Indian side that initiated the process. But both officials from both countries have said that now ceasefire is in effect from Pakistani time 4:30 and 5 p.m. local time in India. But we are also getting reports of ceasefire violations in some areas as the night set in. There are some reports that cross-firing was reported in some areas of Indian-administered Kashmir, and some eyewitnesses say that they heard explosions. There are also similar reports on the Pakistan's administered Kashmir, but we have to see, of course, when the ceasefire is announced, sometimes it can take some time for it to trickle down at the ground. But these are some of the initial reports that we are getting.
You mentioned the US there. Do we know exactly what they did in this process?
So US traditionally has played a role whenever there has been conflict between India and Pakistan. And this US has traditionally been a party that has been trusted by both India and Pakistan. When this crisis started, there were some concerns in Pakistan that US was not so much interested or invested in the process. And that was kind of a worry for some Pakistani officials. But what we know now is that Marco Rubio, the US Secretary of State, spoke with Pakistan's army chief. He spoke with Indian officials. And US President announced that this now ceasefire is in effect. And I think there is definitely a certain role, an important role that US has played traditionally. And we don't know, but it seems and appears that US did play some sort of role here.
There's still some way to go, though, despite this ceasefire, because a lot has happened over this short period since the escalation of tensions between the two countries. Where do we go from here?
So I think, first of all, let's see how things unfold. Ceasefire must remain in effect for further negotiations between the two countries. That's very important. Both of the countries had hit each other with diplomatic punitive measures, I would say. On 22nd April in Pahalgam, in Indian-administered Kashmir, there was an attack in which 26 people were killed, mostly tourists. India blamed Pakistan for that attack. Pakistan denied the allegations. But after that, India hit Pakistan with diplomatic measures, for example, suspending the Indus Water Treaty. And Pakistan also responded with some of its own actions. And for the long-term survival of these two countries together, both the countries have to now find a way to negotiate and go back to normalcy.
Okay. DW's Beenish, Javed, thank you very much for explaining that for us.
All right, well, for more on this, I'm joined by Samir Lalwani, Senior Fellow with the Centre for Strategic and Budgetary Assessments. He joins us from Washington, D.C. Great to have you on DW News. So the ceasefire deal is only a few hours old, and we're already seeing reports that it's being violated. What are you hearing on this front?
That's right, Pablo. So, I mean, I think, first of all, it's a very good thing that there was a ceasefire that was announced by both sides and acknowledged by both sides. Anytime you have two nuclear powers shooting at each other and exchanging fire on their mainlands, it's a cause for concern. So I'm glad that whether it was bilaterally, as the Indians are saying, or whether brokered through the United States, there's a ceasefire that was agreed to. I have also been hearing the possibilities of a breakdown in the ceasefire. It sounds like there are still drone attacks taking place potentially on both sides. Sometimes this happens when you have a de-escalation. Even in 2019, during the last big crisis, while there was de-escalation in terms of the air war, there was sort of continued artillery and sort of exchange of fire on the line of control. So it still might be part of the process of de-escalation, but it's something to sort of continue to monitor.
Right. Well, what are officials in India and Pakistan saying?
I think generally they're acknowledging that there was a ceasefire. Both sides are claiming effectively a strategic victory in this place. And frankly, that may not be a terrible thing, right? The only way you can get two sides to agree to climb down from sort of like this highly militarized environment is for them to both be able to tell a story to their domestic audiences that they achieved their strategic aims and pulled one over on the other. If both sides can live with that and use information or maybe even disinformation to their advantage to make that happen, I think that's crisis stabilizing. We'll sort out sort of what happens in the aftermath, like days or weeks from now. But for the moment, that might be actually helping to stabilize the situation.
Now, Samir, of course, you are in the United States. What can you tell us about US involvement in this ceasefire, in the ceasefire negotiations?
Well, from my vantage point, it was a bit of a whipsaw over the last week or so. Last week or even the week before, you saw the Secretary of Defense and I think the Director of National Intelligence fully encouraging India and saying basically that we're with them in their position. They have a right to retaliate. They didn't say it in such explicit terms, but it was read by the Indians as such. Then the State Department started trying to be proactive in cautioning restraint to both sides. And as things started to heat up over this past week, I think you saw the State Department's and Secretary Rubio and now NSA Rubio getting much more actively involved in trying to get both parties to climb down, which I think is an important indicator that the United States has stakes in this and that the United States has strategic interests. We have 1 million citizens in the region. We have stakes in sort of any conflict between conventional powers not going nuclear. So I think it was a good thing that the United States got itself involved and helped in whatever way, indirectly, directly, to broker the ceasefire.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Samir Lalwani, thank you for joining us today from Washington, D.C.
Thanks for having me on.